I don't think anybody can hear me yet because YouTube is stupid. Let us see. Oh, Striker Kate says 5x5. Maybe they can. Nostra Dumbass. Good morning. It is the 3rd of June, 2023. Remember all those New Year's resolutions you made, right? All the things you're going to get done in 2024. Well, the year's half over. I know, me too. It also hurts me tremendously. The year's basically half over. Probably time to kick it into high gear, is my guess. Snafu copies. Good morning, Snafu. It is the 3rd of June, 2024. This is the Bear Brief, although it's going to be coffee time with Bearish, which means a little bit more conversational, a little less knife handy, because approximately 40% of you statistically who watch the show aren't subscribed. So assuming that you can actually subscribe like you're not a Fed, go ahead and do that. It's good for you. Ring the little bell icon, all the things. Do all the things for the YouTube algorithm because the algorithm hates our guts. And every time you do something like that, it actually helps us. If you were subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube has been unsubscribing people from this channel for well over a year. Okay? Okay, Bear. Awesome. The show is brought to you by the creator of the universe, the fine people at Patreon, and a little company called Refuge Medical that I had the audacity to start in my barn 4 years ago. You know, I was at an event and there was a law enforcement officer there. There were many law enforcement officers there. And I walked over to this guy and I said, "Give me your tourniquet." And he just, he was a cop, you know, he was body armor, the whole nine. And he just looks at me. I said, "Give me your tourniquet." And he puts his hand on it like, "No, you can't have it." I said, "Look, bro, I own Refuge Medical. Give me your tourniquet." And he goes, "Oh, I've heard of you guys." I was like, "Yeah, that's us. Give me your tourniquet. It's staged wrong." He goes, "No, that's the way that North America Rescue." I said, "Stop. Shh, shh, shh. Stop. No, it's wrong." And then I staged it for him. And I said, "That's how you stage a tourniquet. This is why you stage it this way. See, look, ka-chunk. Now it works." He goes, "Oh, all right. Thanks, man." I said, "Now go tell all your other guys." And he did. To his credit, he circled up all of his dudes, pulled the tourniquet out, showed them how to stage it, how to apply it, the whole nine. I was like, "Good job, sir." So if sir happens to be watching this, yeah, you're welcome. Spicy snafu. Well, to be fair, you never know what you're going to do when you ask for someone's TQ. I mean, yeah, if you've ever been to class, like, yeah, we're probably going to make you do some stuff you don't want to do with a tourniquet. Anyway, today we're going to talk about, we got a little write-up on education. We're going to talk about totally not World War III. Don't worry, it's fine. It's definitely not World War III out there. How do we know? Biden said so. So good to go. I don't know what to do with my hands when human existence hangs in the brink like this. Bear Independent Brief 3 June 24. It's finally been reported that most students in the United States are recovering from the massive blow their education sustained during the pandemic. And if you chuckle that massive blow, you need to grow up. Unfortunately, most, if not most, is not the same as all, and millions are still struggling to make up for lost time. Harvard and Stanford researchers conducted an analysis of state and national test scores to produce the Education Recovery Scorecard. Sounds like something they would do, which showed that overall in the U.S., math and reading scores have recovered by 33%. Yay, we're 1/3 of the way back to where we were pre-pandemic, and 25% respectively, 1/4. So, well, 1/3 of the way there with math, 1/4 of the way there with reading scores. But here's the thing. We have generative AI now. The robots will do all the work. Why do I need to know how to do math? Why do I need to know how to read? I'll just have Siri read to me, or Alexa do math for me, or the robots can just feed me as I walk on the treadmill to produce power because we now live in this post-human state. Unfortunately, 9 states demonstrate a continued decline in reading scores even between 2022 and 2023. Additionally, federal funding that was allotted for academic recovery is set to end this year. Harvard economist Thomas Kane said, quote, "The recovery is not finished and it won't be finished without state action. States need to start planning for what they're going to do when the federal money runs out in September." And I think few states have actually started that discussion, end quote. Bud Bergstresser, good morning. Good morning, Dana. Good morning to everybody in the chat. Jason Perry, good morning. Steve White, good morning. Germany and France are calling up a lot of troops. Yeah, we're gonna look at that in a moment. But don't worry. Don't worry. Here's the thing you need to know, Steve. It's not World War III. And we know this because Biden says it's not. And I mean, most popular president ever, so he's pretty trustworthy. Not to mention a man of great moral character who possesses all of his mental faculties. So I think a trustworthy witness, myself personally. Some states are not taking action at all, and for those that are, it's going to cost them. In Virginia, $418 million has already been approved for academic recovery last year, and in Massachusetts, they've earmarked a whopping $11.2 million between math and reading tutoring alone. Now, here's what I want to know. We all know the public school system was invented, enacted, designed in order to be able to produce moderately competent factory workers. But we don't make anything in factories in the United States anymore. How do I know? I own a manufacturing company as well, and nobody makes anything. Nobody. 99.2% of the stuff that's made on planet Earth isn't made in America anymore. There's just not. Mostly in China. And then you'll get people crying about, well, but the cost of making things in America, I can't afford it, so I'll just buy it from China. It's like you realize what they do with that money when you buy from China. They make their army and their navy even better, and we will at some point be fighting against them. So every time you buy some Chinese-made bullshit, you are arming the enemy. Yeah, economic warfare, it's a thing. It's a huge thing. And we can all slow clap for the Clintons and NAFTA and giving preferred trade status to China, what, 40 years ago? 30, 40 years ago? That worked out great for us. Worked out great for us. So nobody makes anything in America anymore, or very few people make anything in America anymore. And honestly, a lot of the stuff that is made here in America is made with robots. When I was at the wood shop, we had an awesome CNC machine for cutting plywood, for cabinet parts, and for cutting everything else for anything. And it would do the work of, especially when it came to carving, it could do in an hour what would take a man a week to do. And so then the work that was left to do was like monkey business, hold this part against this part and shoot it with nails kind of thing. Automation. Why? To stay competitive cost-wise. I get it. So if there's no factories in America anymore, and the robots are going to take over and do everything, honest question, what is even the point of public schools? Because public schools existed in order to make semi-competent factory workers, and we don't have factories anymore. So should it be a surprise that since the jobs that would be occupied by the human beings in public schools won't exist anyway, and probably don't exist right now anyway, that the public school system is doing such a phenomenal job of not teaching children anything? Like, should we be surprised? Their whole reason for existence doesn't exist anymore. Like, nobody goes to public school and then becomes like an electrical engineer. There's more schooling that has to happen. Or goes to public school and then becomes a doctor. There's more schooling that has to happen. Or goes to public school and then becomes a welder. There's more schooling that has to happen. So what's the point of public school in the first place? Honest question. I'm not looking for a debate. It's just an honest question. Why should they go? Mark R says, Mondays just bite. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling the Mondays this morning. I'm definitely feeling the Mondays this morning. It is dark and stormy outside, and it's 8:25 a.m. Central Time, and the Mondays have already full blown, just like from a CEO / boss standpoint, bro, we're already there. It's already a full contact Monday. But you know what you do? In the words of Pastor Joe at Viking Preparedness, you do the best you can with what you got where you at. You show up and go anyway, in the words of Jocko. You just do it. Oh, Mondays suck. Cool. Here we are. Let's let all of our Mondays suck together. Back to education. The gap in scores between the wealthy and the poor is growing wider as students from wealthier families are seeing better recovery, while poorer students show a marked struggle. Yeah, that's because the wealthy people have more resources to deploy to properly educate their children. And that's not like, let's have like class warfare now. That's just a fact. When you're wealthy, you have more resources to deploy towards anything. When you're not wealthy, when you're poor, you have very few resources to deploy. Therefore, you are forced to pick and choose where you're going to allocate resources, time, money, etc. The opportunity gaps between low-income students and their peers already existed, of course, but the pandemic only worsened this. Now, even the academic recovery for poor students is hampered, so the gap is growing wider and wider with every challenge. Kerry Stennett, bless you, bro. Thanks for all you do, Bear. Got to go do the things. Kerry, go do them, man. Go do them. The rough recovery in education may be leading to a specific type of social schism in the future. Schism. It's a good word. Harvard and Stanford researchers noted that this phenomenon could have long-lasting social impacts because the research shows how communities with higher test scores have not just higher income across the board, but also lower arrest and incarceration rates. Given this information, these current issues seen in education may very well lead to real negative social impacts as students mature into adults, revealing larger class divides and an increase in poverty and crime. Did you know that per Alex Hormozy, entrepreneur extraordinaire, per Alex Hormozy, the number one predictor of success for a human being, it's not age, it's not gender, it's not education level, it's not income level. The number one predictor of success for a human being is the zip code they are born in. That's a fascinating bit of information, because you could argue that each zip code is going to have its own, how shall we say, racial makeup. It's going to have its own income levels. It's going to have its own access or lack of access to certain resources. So the number one predictor of success for a person is the zip code they are born in. It's not an immutable law, but it's a really, really, really strong predictor. So for those who are thinking about strategic relocation, that's one more tool to put in your toolkit, one more thought process to add to the conversation. If you birth and raise your kids in a bad zip code, the likelihood that they will birth and raise their kids in a bad zip code is higher. If you birth and raise your kids in a good zip code, the likelihood that they birth and raise your grandchildren in a good zip code is higher. And it's a very large predictor of future success for those children. A fun little nugget to chew on. Totally not World War III. Before we talk about World War III or not World War III, very briefly, grindstoneministries.com. There's a link in the description. If you would like to support our 501c3 nationally registered nonprofit, we do disaster relief after hurricanes and tornadoes. We've done this 43 times in the last 5 years. You want proof? Go to grindstoneministries.com. Look at the deployments, look at the pictures, look at what we do, or just search for Grindstone Ministries in the YouTube search bar. You'll find us. Swivelhead Medic. Yusuf Harari, the World Economic Forum puppet, says 80% of the population will be jobless due to AI, and then the portion of the population will live in a virtual reality and video game world to occupy their time. Yeah, that's a good thing. You know, we're going to touch on something there in a moment. Now, where was we? We were talking about Grindstone. Also, if you don't have a Bible, but you want a Bible, you can either buy one at our cost at grindstoneministries.com, no markup, or If you can't afford one, I'll send you one for free at grindstoneministries.com. So check it out. Speaking of World Economic Forum, here's a little excerpt from a book that was written by a guy by the name of Klaus Schwab, everybody's favorite supervillain. Yeah, check this out. In his own words, from his book. At least 4 billion useless eaters shall be eliminated by the year 2050 by means of limited wars, organized epidemics of fatal, rapid-acting diseases, and starvation. By the way, in the Bible, there's always 3 things that are going to get you, and that is war, plague, and famine. And they come together over and over and over again. Dozens of times I've found this referenced in the Bible. It's a 3-fold problem you got to solve. War, like people trying to kill each other, maybe even trying to kill you, depending on the situation. Famine, there's no food to eat. And plague, disease, widespread disease. Now, let's look again at Mr. Klaus Schwab. At least 4 billion useless eaters shall be eliminated by the year 2050 by means of limited wars, okay, that's war, organized epidemics of fatal, rapid-acting diseases, that's plague, and starvation, that's famine. Energy, food, and water shall be kept at subsistence levels for the non-elite, starting with the white populations of Western Europe and North America, and then spreading to other races. The populations of Canada, Western Europe, and the United States will be decimated more rapidly than on other continents until the world's population reaches a manageable level of 1 billion, of which 500 million will consist of Chinese and Japanese races, selected because they are a people who have been regimented for centuries and who are accustomed to obeying authority without question. The next chapter. The next paragraph. From time to time, there shall be artificially contrived food and water shortages and medical care to remind the masses that their very existence depends on the goodwill of the Committee of 300. Oh, from time to time, there shall be artificially contrived food and water shortages, but you don't need to prepare. You can just keep playing at preparedness. You can keep living in the wrong place, dedicating 2% of your annual income to preparedness. So you can check that box. And when I say prepare, what you hear is buy another Glock and another plate carrier and go to the range once a month and shoot at static targets inside of a little box. Because that's preparedness, bro. You got nothing to worry about. From time to time, there shall be artificially contrived food and water shortages, which you should have food and water, and medical care. Oh, you should have your medical stuff and know how to use it, to remind the masses that their very existence depends on the goodwill of the Committee of 300. Hey, by the way, Mr. Klaus, our very existence depends on the creator of the universe, and you trying to usurp his authority is literally 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the Antichrist. So just so we're all on the same page here, Klaus, you can kiss my hairy white ass. Okay, good. I appreciate the person who brought up the comment on the World Economic Forum. There you go. Now, totally not World War III. According to Russia Today, reporting RT.com, Biden doesn't want World War III, according to the White House. Washington is not looking for a shooting war with Russia, National Security Spokesperson John Kirby has said. U.S. President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. * does not want the standoff with Russia over Ukraine to trigger a global war, the White House National Security Spokesperson has said. John Kirby was speaking days after the White House confirmed that Biden had granted Kyiv permission to use U.S.-supplied weapons for strikes deep inside Russia. Ukraine had requested an easing of restrictions on the use of foreign arms after Russian troops launched a new offensive in Ukraine's eastern Kharkov region last month, which is in the northeast of Ukraine, I believe, capturing several border villages. Quote, "We've been concerned about escalation since the very beginning of this war, and those concerns remain valid," Kirby told ABC News on Sunday. Quote, "The president has said he does not want to be responsible for starting World War III. We're not looking for conflict with Russia, another nuclear power. Kirby said that Biden, quote, had understood all the ramifications, end quote, of allowing Kyiv to use American weapons for counterfire purposes. He reiterated that Ukrainians were only permitted to target bases, artillery positions, and other military sites that, quote, Russians were using to create some sort of buffer zones. And this BS article goes on from here. The last paragraph of which is, in an interview with U.S. journalist Tucker Carlson in February, Putin said it is unthinkable for anyone to drag the world into a new global war, which would, quote, put the whole of humanity on the brink of survival. But don't worry, guys. Biden said we don't want World War III, which means de facto we won't have World War III. How do I know this? We can look at his track record. Bidenomics, working great. Inflation, very low. Purchasing power of the dollar, very high. U.S. energy production, we got way more than we can use. Way more than we can use. We're definitely not having brownouts and shortages everywhere. Green tech and renewable energy, solid investment, really good for the environment, working great. That also totally not a pedo, even though his own daughter took showers with him, according to her journal, and he is on camera sniffing and caressing children repeatedly. So, don't believe the hype. This guy, you can take his words straight to the bank, man. So per Biden, no World War III. Don't have to worry about it. Everybody go back to living your little lives. No reason to be prepared at all. However, in contrast to what Mr. Biden may have said, we have this from RT, Russia Today. First French troops on the way to Ukraine. So in Ukraine, we've had American personnel for at least a decade. Shh, don't tell anyone. So then that's Ukraine and America. And then in 2014, was it Russia took Crimea? And then in 2022, February 24th, 2022, Russia started their special military operation in Ukraine. And so that gets Ukraine, Russia, and America all inside of these borders. And then Ukraine is being supported by NATO et al., which also involves, like, let's see, Poland is bought in on this. Oh, and Belarus on the Russian side. Okay, so that's 5 countries. And then France, which we're talking about right now, and Germany and the UK. And I think even Canada has kicked a couple of bucks into the pot for Ukraine. Who am I forgetting? Oh, the Baltic states and the Nordic states. And so you've then had Sweden and Finland have joined NATO. So we're only at 12 countries right now wrapped up in just the Ukraine war. So definitely not a world war. It's not a world war. There's only 12 of 187 countries involved. Like, we'd need at least 90 countries, 94 countries to have half of the, to get us past that 50% mark. Is SOE in here? What's up? What up, Bear Nation? Hello from SOE. What's up, SOE? Good stuff there. Made in America, by the way. To this article from Russia Today, Kyiv has already prepared the necessary paperwork for foreign instructors at its military bases. The first group of French military instructors, kind of like special military advisors, right? Special military advisors. We're not doing warfare. We're advising on warfare from the front lines with soldiers. Got it. The first group of French military instructors are on their way to Ukraine, senior Ukrainian MP Alexei Gon said on Friday. This comes just days after Ukraine's top commander Alexander Syrsky announced that he had completed paperwork facilitating the presence of French personnel in the country. Quote, my sources informed me that the first group of French instructors is already on its way to Ukraine, said to the Ukrainian parliament and delegate to the parliamentary blah, 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 who cares. The idea of deploying NATO boots on the ground remains a contentious issue within the U.S.-led bloc, whose members maintain that they are not parties to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Moscow, which would be the capital of Russia, by the way, however, has said that it views Ukraine's Western backers as direct participants, stressing that Western-supplied weapons are being used to strike targets on Russian soil. Oh, remember, we only got 12 nations, but Ukraine is getting a whole bunch of, or I'm sorry, Russia is getting a whole bunch of their munitions from North Korea, so that gets us at 13. And then Russia supplies Iran 14, which started some asymmetric warfare stuff in Israel 15, using the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah, which are not nation states but are bad actors associated with said nation states, which brings in Israel 16, and then now the Palestinians that don't actually have a nation state, but they want one, even though Hezbollah says it will never accept the terms of a two-state solution. So 17 asterisk. We only got 17 countries wrapped up into this so far. In February, French President Emmanuel Macron said that he could not rule out the possibility of NATO member states sending troops to Ukraine in the future, although French officials soon clarified that he meant non-combat personnel. Macron later argued that NATO should adopt a policy of, quote, strategic ambiguity towards Russia. The French leader has been working behind the scenes to forge a coalition of countries willing to dispatch trainers to Kyiv, according to Bloomberg, reported on Friday. Nothing to see here. There's only 17-ish countries involved in this totally not World War III thing going on. OKC Papa, proxy participants, 100%, man, 100%. Yeah, Oklahoma Jim, the French going to teach Ukraine how to surrender. You know, I was thinking about it because this picture totally has like a French guy with a FAMAS bullpup. Bear is no fan of bullpups. I don't like bullpups, but whatever. How many FAMASs do you think are in Ukraine? I'm not going to say it's zero because they got all kinds of interesting weaponry over there right now. But it's probably not a whole bunch. Right, they're probably running that, I believe they are running some combination of AK-47s, AK-74s, and M4s-ish, plus a wide variety of anything else they can get their hands on. Where was it? I saw some pictures of some Russians in the rear who had been armed with Mosin Nagants. Mosins. Was it 1913 that rifle came out? It's 111 years old. Yeah, Mosins. Although that 7.62 by 54 rimmed does hit super hard. Like, what else is going on here? From the Blaze Media, this will be the last article we look at today. Actually, before I tell you about the Blaze, calebhouse.org. If you think trafficking human beings is a terrible thing to do and you would like to do something about it, not just watch a video or a movie and then like, oh, Operation Underground Rescue, they're so cool, and then go home and do nothing about it. If you want to actually do something about it, Caleb House, Caleb with a K, calebhouse.org. What's Caleb House? The rescuing and restoration of juvenile human trafficking survivors, aka kids who have been serially raped by a-holes. How do I know that these fine people actually do this? I'm the president of the organization, and we have teams in the field right now making sure the bad stuff happens to bad people. We have victim services teams, we have white-collar legal teams, medical teams, trauma therapists, and then we have restoration facilities where we put kiddos back together again. Because of the $150 million per year spent in the United States to combat human trafficking, 90% or 135 million is spent on awareness, aka Instagram posts about raped kids bad. Cool, I already know that. That's not helping me or anybody else. The other 10% is spent on rescue, $15 million a year spent on rescue, which sounds like a lot, but that's about 1.25 million per month, which isn't a whole hell of a lot. Break that down, what's that, 40K a day? Yeah, about 40K a day. It's not enough. It's not enough. And that's nationally, and 17,000 kids per month go missing. 17,000 kids per month go missing. So it's a massive problem that a lot of people talk about and very few people do anything about. And so if you want to be involved with the people that do something, Caleb House, Caleb with a K.org, check it out. It's a tax deductible donation if the spirit moves you, and if the spirit doesn't move you, so be it. Mazel tov, no hard feelings. From theblaze.com. Biden administration offers mass amnesty to illegal immigrants by quietly terminating 350,000 asylum cases. In the first 4 months of 2024, a whopping 113,000 illegal aliens had their asylum cases terminated. The Biden administration has effectively offered mass amnesty by quietly terminating asylum cases to hundreds of thousands of migrants, according to an eye-opening report. The Biden administration has, quote, terminated without a decision on the merits of their asylum claim, end quote, more than 350,000 migrant asylum cases since 2022, according to a new report from the New York Post, citing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement officials as their source. The illegal immigrants reportedly have had their asylum cases dismissed as long as they don't have a criminal record or are deemed to not be a threat to the United States. So they can have a criminal record, but also be deemed not to be a threat to the United States, in which case their migrant asylum case can be quietly terminated. While the migrants are not granted asylum per se, they're also not denied asylum. In addition, their asylum cases are terminated without a decision based on the merits of their asylum claim. Consequently, they are removed from the legal system and no longer required to check in with authorities. They are free to live in the U.S. without fear of deportation. According to the Post, there were 102,550 migrants allowed to remain in the U.S. after having their asylum cases dismissed in 2022. The figure reportedly jumped to 149,000 last year. In the first 4 months of 2024, a whopping 113,000 illegal aliens have had their asylum cases terminated, according to the data. Conversely, there were allegedly 18,000 such cases in 2021, 4,700 in 2020, and 4,700 in 2019. Quote, this is just a massive amnesty under the guise of a prosecutorial discretion, end quote, Center for Immigration Studies' Andrew Arthur, a former immigration judge, told the New York Post. Quote, you're basically allowing people who don't have a right to be in the United States to stay here indefinitely. Since President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. * took office in January 2020, 77% of asylum seekers have been allowed to remain in the country. The Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse said there is a backlog of nearly 3.6 million unresolved asylum claims. So everything's fine. Oh, and by the way, don't worry, because we've got good reporting on this as well. The only people coming across the porous southern border, and no person is illegal, the newcomers, those seeking asylum, it's just women and children who love America and love God and want to come here and work hard and pay their taxes. So there's nothing we got to worry about here. It's fine. I mean, it's not like it's a bunch of military-aged males from China and Russia and the Baltic states that are just waltzing across the border, that are in, full battle rattle. It's not like that's happening. It's not like it's hundreds of thousands of known Chinese military-aged males. That would never happen. It's not like there's been coordinated attacks on the power infrastructure, now the homes of certain personnel within the special operations community. It's not like the, what is it? Oh, yeah, the munitions plant in McAlester, Oklahoma, hasn't had 4 different vans filled with Chinese people driving around its borders and taking pictures of it over the last month. It's not like our national defense and infrastructure is being probed daily by small teams who are probably preparing for asymmetric warfare. We would never allow that to happen at all. And so, again, who cares about preparedness? Prepping is stupid. Why do I need extra food? When I run out of food, I'll just drive over to the Target, probably get me a Starbucks on the way. Yeah, pick up some, I don't know, Stouffer's lasagna, whatever it is that people buy at the store. I'm retarded and don't grocery shop and try and eat as much food off of my property as I can. So I don't really know what the normies do. But yeah, there's nothing to see here, guys. Everything's fine. We've only added between 20 and 40 million undocumented people because no person is illegal. And it's not like this current regime in the White House has spent your taxpayer dollars to bus and fly these people into the United States of America, because that would be poor stewardship of the resources that we put into their hand. And remember, if Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. says that it's good to go, then y'all, it's good to go. So I wouldn't worry too much about it at all. I mean, it's not like they who have come across the southern border are preparing for coordinated decapitation strikes and attacks on American infrastructure. It's not like, all of our SCADA systems are infected with Stuxnet. It's not like the grid is incredibly fragile. It's not like there's ransomware attacks taking place on hospitals and pharmacies all over the country. It's nothing to see here. It's a nothing burger. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just put that one to bed. It's fine. There's probably, I guarantee you, if you Google cats playing with yarn, you'll get overwhelmed with cuteness and won't have to worry about it anymore. Let's see, Refuge Medical. We had an aid rendered that just came in. I'm going to read it to you, assuming I can find it. It has recently posted on Patreon as of this morning. How do I know that? I posted it there. Aid rendered. Hey, Refuge, wanted to share a quick story. I work for a small municipality in the southern tier of Western New York. On Friday afternoon, one of our guys was cutting brush with a chainsaw and cut his left thigh. And of course, when I say cut with a chainsaw, we all know that really means scooped. Yeah, chainsaws are nasty wounds, man. Like if I cut you with a knife, the flesh comes to like a V, like this, right? You get cut with a chainsaw, it's a U shape. It cuts a groove in you, just like it would cut in a tree. Because I don't care how swole you think you are not as hard as a maple tree or an oak or even a pine. And those things are designed for cutting through wood that will all the way cut through your leg. Ask me how I know. I've only been cut with a chainsaw 3 times. All right, no chaps. Fortunately, it was a relatively shallow cut and he missed the artery and tendon, though not by much. I've followed Bear Independent for years, and the medical videos have been a great help for me, but I wanted to stress there is no substitute for hands-on training. Most of the guys here rolled their eyes when I purchased Bear Facts for all the supervisors' trucks, but man, we were happy when we had them. Packed the wound and wrapped it. Fortunately, no tourniquet required, but nonetheless, the usual first aid kit from Home Depot would not have done the job. Thank you for all that you do. Keep it up, and God bless. JL. I appreciate that. And we have hundreds of aids rendered, 122 lives saved to date that we know of. So we know that Refuge medical kits work. And I think it's important to point out that it's not just shot, stabbed, blown up where I'm going to need a trauma medical kit. It's chainsaw stuff. Motor vehicle accidents. I think it's 74 of our 122 were motor vehicle accidents. And most people are so stress inoculated to driving that it's like not even a thing. We forget you're driving several tons of steel and aluminum at a high rate of speed across a very hard surface surrounded by other people who are doing the exact same thing. Medic Mouse said, don't be an ass, get to class. 100%. 100%. We do have some classes still available at refugemedical.com. There's a couple of slots left for the Surviving Womanhood class. And then we've got Responder 1 and 2 and the Essential Responder class dates as well. So you could check that out. That's the training tab at refugemedical.com. Also wanted to tell you that all of our kits are HSA and FSA eligible, as are the components. Things like if you buy Pastor Joe's book, not HSA eligible. If you want to get a patch, not HSA eligible. And that's not because of us. That's because of the insurance companies. Trust me, I've tried. And unfortunately, training, not HSA or FSA eligible. I have tried. But kits and components absolutely are. The Field Medic and the Stomp Bag are both available for purchase again. So if you've been waiting for a big kit, like backpack size kit, The Field Medic is our smaller backpack size kit, and the Stomp Bag, which is that acronym is SEAL Team Operational Medical Pack, which is based upon the specifications from Naval Special Warfare. That's back in stock. So if you guys have been waiting to get one of those, you can. Maybe you're like, cool story, Bear. It's Joe Biden's 2024. I'm halfway through the year. I'm barely making ends meet. Cool. Get a bleeding prevention kit. They're like $60. Vacuum sealed kit has everything you need inside of it to deal with massive bleeding, which per the March algorithm is going to be approximately 92% statistically of the incidents that you're going to need a first aid kit for. So it will all the way do it, and it's like $60. And if you use promo code BearNation, you get free shipping. So that's Refuge Medical. Check it out. That's the show for today. That's what I got. So we're going to pray real quick, and then it's Monday, so we're going to go do stuff. Sound good? Okay, Bear. Cool. Matthew Ramos said no sound. I'm assuming everybody else has sound. Brady says, Bear, I just used my Bear Fact the other day with a hand injury that was to the bone. Oof, Brady. Praise Yah. I'm glad you got it. JC Fixer, we love you, Bear. I love you back, JC. Bama Buckeye has sound. Let's talk to the Father. Oh, good morning, Father Yah. Father, thank you for all the things that we take for granted. Father, thank you for the rain, even if it makes us sleepy. Father, thank you for the opportunity to do something awesome with you today, whatever that might be. Father, I pray that you put us where we need to be, that you give us the words that we need to speak, and use us for your will today. Father, thank you that your word will not return to you void, and that you are Elohim, that you are sovereign over all things. Father, thank you for your miraculous provision and protection and blessing. Thank you for loving us enough to redeem us out of the world by the blood of your Son. Thank you for giving us a model to walk in. Thank you for letting the scales fall from our eyes, and thank you for tolerating us in our flesh as we continue to learn how to walk. Father, thank you for all these things. Thank you for the blessing of family and people and land and tribe and businesses and ministries and all of the blessings, Father, that you have put on our shoulders that require stewardship. Father, thank you for another opportunity to humble ourselves before you. Father, please give us strength today. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, strength and power and endurance and authority. Father, please pour out your Spirit on all flesh for wisdom and discernment, to know right from wrong, to know when to speak and when to act, to know how to speak and how to act. Father, please give us peace that surpasses all understanding, and let us remember that you are sovereign over all things, and all things work together for your good. Father Yah, be there anything within the sound of my voice that's not of you, I rebuke in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach and command it to flee. Father, please put a hedge around these people. Father, please smile upon them. Father, I lift them up to you and lay them at your feet and ask for your provision, protection, and blessing today. In Yeshua's name, Amen. Happy Monday. Go get after it. Oh, I'm supposed to get a haircut on Wednesday, so hopefully I won't be this abominable the next time you see me. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.